In 1912, 8 people were murdered inside the house. The killer was never found. Now, over 20 years later, I was sent to investigate a strange audio tape recovered from the same location. It was already playing, and that was before I stepped inside.
I arrived at 3:17 a.m. Fog blanketed the road like a corpse sheet. The house sat crooked on its foundation, rotting from the inside out. Locals called it Mourning Hill. No neighbors for miles, just cornfields and wind that moaned like breath from a mouth that shouldn't be open. Dispatch logged this as a probable missing persons call. I already knew it was something else. 3 teenagers disappeared last week after live streaming from inside. Their last broadcast ended mid-sentence, cut by a sharp screech. Not feedback, more like a pig being gutted, but digital. No bodies, no gear recovered. Only the feed remains, archived and flagged by the algorithm for abnormal audio frequencies. That's why they called me. Not homicide, not missing persons. Me. The front door was unlocked. No signs of forced entry, just a rusted chain swaying in the wind, clinking like a metronome set to dread. My boots sank into old wooden floorboards. Dust coated everything like ash after a fire. Yet, there were fresh prints, barefoot, small, leading deeper inside. I turned on my recorder. Case log 042, beginning entry. The living room hadn't changed since 1912. Bloodstains remained varnished into the floor under a dull rug. All 8 victims, parents, children, a visiting guest, killed with the blunt side of an axe. No screams, no witnesses. The murderer stayed long enough to cook himself breakfast, then vanished like smoke. That's what legend says, but I'm not here for stories. I'm here for answers. I stepped into the parlor. An old Victrola stood silent in the corner. But when I crossed the room, it cracked to life. No power, no crank, just a shrill violin tune dragging through warped wax. I froze. My recorder glitched. I heard whispering in the static, a child's voice repeating, "They're still sleeping. Don't wake them up." I followed the footprints into the hallway. Every mirror was covered in bed sheets, nailed down like flesh wounds. Even in the dim light, I could see impressions on the glass, faint outlines of faces pressed against the surface from the inside. Each mirror was humming slightly, not vibrating, humming, as if something was breathing behind the glass. Room by room, I checked the second floor. Children's bedrooms, untouched. Beds made, dolls still in place. In one room, the wallpaper had peeled in perfect spirals. In another, a mobile spun above the crib, slowly, against the air. The spinning stopped the moment I looked at it. On the wall, a phrase scratched in nail marks. "He never left." I found their streaming rig in the attic. Tripod, phone, external mic, all burned. Not melted, burned. But the attic showed no fire damage, just the gear. That's when the feed cut in, unprompted, on my handheld. Glitching visuals, teenagers laughing, exploring, then silence. Then one of them whispers, "There's someone in the mirror." Then black. The basement door was sealed with iron bolts. New hardware. Someone wanted it closed. I undid the lock slowly, like peeling bandages off something still festering. The smell hit me first. Damp, rust, rot, and something old. Not dead, not alive, just old. I clicked on my flashlight and took the first step down. It groaned like a voice in pain. The basement was wrong. Angles bent where they shouldn't. The shadows moved even when I didn't. A wall of cassette tapes lined the shelves, unmarked, unlabeled. I picked one and slipped it into my recorder. Static. Then a voice. A child, whispering. He listens through the glass. He remembers everyone who sleeps here. I turned. Someone was behind me.
No one was there, or nothing I could see, but the air had changed, thick, electric, like the breath before a thunderclap. I backed away slowly, keeping my recorder running. On playback, I later discovered footsteps in the background, heavy ones, dragging slightly. Whatever was behind me wasn't barefoot like the others. I scanned the tapes. Most were blank, but one had a date etched faintly in pen. June 13th, 1912, the night of the murders. I played it. The recording hissed, cracked, then began with lullaby music. Faint giggles followed. Then silence. Then the sound of an axe being dragged across the floor. Not striking, dragging. I snapped out of it when my flashlight flickered. The light caught movement in the far corner. Not a figure, a shadow shaped like one. It didn't shift naturally. It pulsed, and then it began to crawl along the wall toward the mirror hanging crookedly in the basement. I froze. The mirror wasn't reflecting me. It was showing something waiting. I shut the recorder off. The mirror started vibrating. Behind the glass, the same child's face from upstairs. Eyes wide, mouth sewn shut. It began tapping the glass with one finger, then two, then many. From inside the mirror, dozens of pale hands pressed forward. The frame cracked. I ran. Upstairs, I locked the basement behind me. My hands were shaking. Blood on my palm. Not mine. It smelled sweet, like iron and perfume. I checked my gear. The body cam had recorded everything, but every file was corrupted. Except one, a 6-second clip of me whispering something I don't remember saying. Don't let them in this time.
Outside, the fog had thickened. I tried radioing dispatch. Static. Even GPS had scrambled. The house wasn't letting me go. I circled back through the main hallway, searching for a clue, a trigger, a pattern. That's when I noticed the clocks. Every single one was stuck at 3:17 a.m., the exact time I arrived. They hadn't moved. Neither had I. I entered the master bedroom. The bed was perfectly made, yet covered in dust. But the pillow had an indent, like someone was still lying there. The closet door creaked open slowly. I aimed my flashlight. Inside hung a child's dress, pristine white, but soaked at the bottom, as if dipped in red ink. It was swaying, just slightly. I backed out. On the wall outside the room, etched in jagged charcoal, "Memory is the wound that keeps bleeding." I don't know if it was a message for me or from me. I looked down. My recorder was playing, without me touching it. My own voice spoke. "We buried them in the walls. Don't let them scream again." I ran to the front door, still unlocked, still wide open. But when I crossed the threshold, the same hallway began again. Same photos, same rug, same footprints. It looped. The house was cycling me through something, making me remember what I'd never done. Or maybe what I had long ago. Back in the living room, the Victrola played again. This time, it was a hymn. A voice, soft, female, detached, sang through the static. Ashes to silence, shadows to skin. I collapsed into the dusty armchair, breath caught in my throat. In the mirror across from me, Detective V.S. stared back, but his eyes were gone.
I blinked. My reflection vanished. Just empty glass, cracked down the middle. My name was being whispered now, softly, all around me. V.S. Shadow. Come back down. I stood up, heart pounding, and noticed a fresh photograph on the mantel. It hadn't been there before. It was me, standing in front of the house, but the photo looked decades old. My skin crawled. My badge number was carved into the fireplace stone. I didn't do it, couldn't have, but it was there. I stared into the flames, but they weren't flames. They were flickers of old film reels playing backwards, faces screaming in reverse. Each reel ended with a single word, typed in white: confess. I retraced my steps upstairs. The children's room was now colder. Frost covered the inside of the window, except for one spot, where a small handprint remained. A toy music box had wound itself. It began playing, slow, broken notes. A drawer creaked open on its own. Inside, another cassette labeled "Play Me Last." I slipped the tape into my recorder. The voice wasn't mine, wasn't human. It echoed, distorted, layered, like multiple people speaking at once. The house is not haunted. It's remembering. Every soul that entered, every scream that echoed, every silence that stayed. You are not the first detective. You are the last witness. I dropped the recorder. The lights in the room flickered violently. The dolls all turned their head toward me at once. Their eyes began to leak ink. One of them, mouth stitched, whispered without moving her lips, "If you open the wall, the past comes through." Then her porcelain cheek cracked, and she collapsed sideways. Something in the wall was calling. Not a sound, a feeling. Behind the children's bed, the wallpaper had warped. I pulled at it until it tore, revealing rotten drywall. Beneath that, a hatch. Small, square, iron. No hinges, just bolted shut with symbols I didn't recognize. My hands moved on their own. Unscrew it. The hatch dropped open, revealing a pitch-black shaft. Not deep, but long. A tunnel? Or a chamber? I crawled inside, dragging my gear. The walls were covered in names, scratched over each other thousands deep. At the very center, lit only by my headlamp, were 8 chairs, and on each sat a mannequin, dressed in the victim's clothes. Each mannequin wore a blindfold and headphones. They were wired to an old reel-to-reel machine in the corner, which began spinning when I stepped inside. Voices flooded the space. Children, adults, someone sobbing, someone praying, and behind it all, a low rhythmic chant. Not English, not any known language. My ears bled. I staggered back, slipped, knocked one of the mannequins over. Its head cracked open, and inside wasn't foam. It was teeth. Human teeth. Dozens all glued together. Something behind me whispered, "He's watching now." I turned, and one of the mannequins stood up on its own. I bolted out of the crawlspace and back into the hallway.
But the house had changed again. Everything was upside down. Furniture on the ceiling, doors leading to nowhere, mirrors hanging in midair. I heard static, then my own voice whispering from every corner. "We never left. You brought us back." The house wasn't haunted. It was awake. I tried to find the exit again, but the front door was gone. Not locked, gone. In its place was a wall of photographs, all black and white, all of me. Different eras, 1940s, 1970s, 1990s. Same face, same eyes. In one, I'm shaking hands with a man in a military uniform. In another, I'm standing next to a grave, my own name on the stone. I yelled, banged on the walls, but my voice came back to me, delayed, distorted, layered over past recordings, like the house was remixing my memories into its architecture. I dropped to my knees. Then I heard it, something walking above me, heavy, rhythmic, metallic, like boots dragging chains across the attic floor. I climbed up, flashlight flickering. The attic had changed. Dust turned to ash. Every surface burnt black. In the center stood a tall mirror, freestanding, covered in fingerprints from the inside. My reflection stepped forward before I did and smiled. Its mouth moved, but the voice came from behind me. "Let me remember for you." I turned, and there was no one, but the mirror cracked, then again, then shattered outward. From it crawled something, not a person, not a shadow, a mass of limbs, tape reels, eyes that didn't blink, and mouths that only whispered. It pulled itself forward, like a memory trying to become real. I couldn't move. The tape in my pocket, the one labeled "Play Me Last," began vibrating. I shoved it into my recorder with shaking hands. The moment it clicked, the creature froze. The tape played a single voice. Mine. Calm. Controlled. "You've done this before. This is how we end it. Play the final reel. Burn the house. Don't look back."
I pulled the final reel from the drawer beneath the Victrola. It was marked in red, case log 000. I placed it on the spindle. The moment it spun, the house groaned, loud, animal-like, enraged. The walls cracked, mirrors shattered, windows imploded inward. The voices screamed together, "No more forgetting!" The reel played static. Then silence. Then fire. Actual fire, not a metaphor. The walls ignited. The tapes began melting. I ran through the collapsing hallway. Behind me, the entity screeched, a sound like reversed glass breaking. I reached the threshold and leapt into the smoke just as the floor gave out beneath it. I woke up in the field. The house is gone. Just ash and foundation. Sun rising. My gear fried. Body cam melted. The recorder cracked. But one tape survived, still warm in my coat. A whisper echoed from it, even unplugged. "Thank you for remembering us." I stood. My hand bled, but the cut had already begun to scar over, shaped like the symbol on the hatch. Back at HQ, no one believed the report. The house had been condemned for years. No record of a call. No record of teenagers. But the cassette, it played only for me. Each time I listened, a new voice spoke. Victims, confessions, warnings. I cataloged them all, filed under case log 042, the house on Mourning Hill. Final note: The last voice on the tape is mine. A version of me I've never been. It says, "You're not the first shadow. You're just the one who remembers. When the next house wakes up, you'll hear the whisper again. Don't ignore it. You were made for this." I haven't slept since, because last night I saw a new house in my dreams, and its windows were already open.